At the agenda, or do you have the whole packet up there?
It's the whole thing.
Call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock on October 10th. Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Ressler, Mrs. Gleason are here. Steve Langer, Jim Boswell, and Dr. Kennedy. No comments from the public, no old business. October bills under new business. Any questions on the October bills?
No.
Leslie?
No.
Okay. Any questions on the impressed or deposits, other than there's never enough?
I would agree.
Okay, no over 5,000 purchase orders, CDS bills, payables. Any questions on that?
No.
Mr. Boswell, network audit.
So I'm bringing tonight basically the idea that many districts at some point in time it's worth bringing in kind of an outside eye to look at how things are set up here. Our network is, I've taken this role and we have a new network engineer and our team has kind of looked at it. There's nothing glaringly wrong. Everything works fine, but it's you can kind of tell that things were built pieces at a time, and there are some things that could make our system more robust, more efficient, and we kind of need someone to come in, an expert that can come in and look at all the systems we have and find ways to make it more efficient. And we've gone from basically mobile devices to next year we're going to have 6,000 mobile devices. I think it's a good time for us to look at where we've come, how we've kind of designed it from the get-go. Again, really this is best practices in the industry as opposed to just kind of we have the system up and running, but I think there's some things that we could tweak. And we found that, and we've had some, just along the way, some different people we've talked to have asked questions like, why is it set up that way? Which is the right way to set it up when you have no mobile devices and your Wi-Fi is not being used as much. So I've talked to 3 different companies. I'm recommending MindSight. We've used them for things in the past. They're actually giving us about 50% off their rate. What it would look like would be 3 weeks of engagement where they would be on campus for a week full-time. Their vice president of consulting services will be here basically monitoring and talking to us, interviewing our team, talking to Bill what his expectations are for the district, me, the technology team here. And then they would have an engineer off-site basically that can look at all of our system and all of our settings and all that kind of stuff. And then basically make recommendations and then help us work through those recommendations. From talking to other tech directors, I met with them last week, pretty much every district, I asked how often they do things like this, and they say usually between every 3 and 5 years. And as far as I can find, we haven't done one in quite some time. So I think now is a good time to do this, whereas we have a kind of a team change. It'll give us a good chance to kind of start fresh and make sure we have everything where we need to be, especially as we're expanding our services.
Yeah, and I also think it's critical that the team has 3 new members.
Yeah,
Which are they're trying to stumble through and figure out what is actually there. So getting blueprints and logical understanding of what there, I think, is a good idea as well.
Yeah, it's a credit to Jim Donow was doing a lot, but also when he left, he took a lot of information, and there weren't a lot of breadcrumbs to find on how things were going. So
have it all up here.
Right. So it's for us, for myself in particular, finding people are asking questions, and no one that's here knows what that answer is, and we found every one of them. Again, I think it would be good to have kind of a professional outside eye to come in and look at, just give it everything a once over.
So because I don't know, I don't talk network.
Yeah, right.
Have even though you know it would be dangerous, let's just say.
Yeah.
And so after they come and go and give us, I guess, what's the end goal here? Is here we are today. After they leave, we want to be able to download things faster. What is the end goal? So
really, people probably won't see a change in speed because we're already basically giving every device, again, 6,000 mobile devices, hundreds of computers, everything is actually operating at plenty speed where no one's experiencing, well, this goes slow, that's plenty fast enough. The issue is really things like backups. Are we backing up our data as frequently as we need to? Again, we have a system that would back that up, but is it what the current best practice is?
Sure.
And I don't think it is. With regards to reliability, right now, if there's a power blip at one of our buildings, we have to manually do a lot to get things back to where they were before the power blip. So what are some things we can do to where it becomes more automated, where we can get things to get back up on their own? And there's more too.
How about security? Are they going to look at security?
They're going to look at network intrusion.
Well, not so much about like that too, but I'm also talking. Like, will they cover like how to secure our students and teachers and parents' information? You know.
Yeah. So basically making sure that there's a couple things. One we're working on kind of independent of this is I've been talking to vendors about how do we change currently if a student comes to register, we basically make a photocopy of every document they bring in for our records, for residency, medical records, all that stuff, which is fine, but we're spending a lot of time and dollars making photocopies of thousands of sheets of paper. There are many systems out there in businesses where essentially you scan it in, you put the kid's ID number, this is a medical record, and you can store this data in secure servers. Again, in these companies that have these databases. That would make their personal information more secure. In addition, it would make it easier for us as a building or as a district. I can type in a kid's ID number and here's the documents I need, as opposed to we have to go out to the garage, find the box from that school from that year, go through 1,000 pieces of paper.
It's in a box in the garage.
Yeah. So and we have storage up in I think it's in Naperville. Is that where Microsystems is at? So we can call them and they go and find that piece of paper that we're looking for.
And
so that's
paying them to store our stuff.
We're paying, yeah. So there's better systems for this. So
that
one
would be
system
part
that
of
we
your
can
house?
no, I'm already working on that. Right. So with regard to our network security, that is something that they're going to look at. Is intrusion detection is number one. So how will we know if someone from the outside is inside of our network? Again, Jim had set up we have a pretty good security system already set up. So that is something that we're going to basically look at, and really things like ransomware, which you've heard about, where people install stuff on your computer, it encrypts it, and you have to pay $150. It happened a couple months ago, is a big one. Things like that. How do we detect that? So those are recommendations that they're going to make.
How about the denial of service attacks? Do you have any of those? Do you have problems here with those?
We haven't had any problems with those. One of the reasons is ENA, who's our provider, actually provides DDoS protection. So essentially, a kid could go home and you could sign up for these services, but essentially they'll send a billion requests all at once to your network, and the network goes and it gets overwhelmed and it shuts down. So we do have some stuff in place already, and our provider is providing.
We had a problem
as well.
at District 230 during finals. The kids were starting, and they just have an app for it.
The kids are smart enough.
They
to
find the
figure
IP
it out,
address, and they had an app for it. You could pay like $10 to do a denial of service attack against, and it really shut down all our services. For
denial of service.
Denial of service.
Right. What a coincidence!
No, denial of $10. They can pay. They got an app to do denial of service to the whole school district, and it shut us down.
Yeah, so our issues aren't anymore things like antivirus or malware. We're protected against all that stuff. It's a person getting access to our network. Again, luckily, we haven't had any of issues like this, but that is something that kind of big stuff is. They're going to make recommendations based on that. And there are services for all of this stuff. We just, again, basically one person did it all, but again, one person can't know it all and at the same time be knowing our system in and out, but other systems, the best practices in the industry changed in that 15 years, and where do we match up compared to that best practice is kind of what they're looking at.
As one of your steps, will you be documenting all this in case you decide
Oh,
to
absolutely.
Leave us one day?
So we already started some things to basically prevent this. Yeah, we created two things. One, we have a ticketing system we just implemented. So everything that in our district, if a teacher has a request, they email the same email they did, but instead of basically being an email, hey, I need help, and he says, okay, I'll take care of it, it creates a ticket in a system that we all have access to. So we can all see, all 7 of our technology department members can see what are things that are happening. Oh, we're having these printers are starting to go bad. We can kind of see that as opposed to he told me or he didn't and I don't know about it. And then we also started something called a wiki, which is like Wikipedia, but it's an internal one where we're basically taking what's the procedure when this happens? Well, we write it down. What's the procedure when this happens? Well, we write it down.
Procedural.
Yeah, basically like it's called a knowledge base is another way to look at it, where you can search NEC model, whatever, and here are things that people have tried. So we just started that about 3 or 4 weeks ago, so we're building that as we go. But our team's been pretty happy with.
I think the other thing that's interesting to note is Jim has hired in those positions really techie guy. So instead
Exactly.
of having one tech
Yeah.
guy, now you almost have a team that's working together, and
They're benefiting from it as well.
I stopped into a couple meetings and got confused in the first 3 seconds ago. I'm out.
Yeah.
But they're actively all really engaged in the tech world, which
Yeah.
is really good.
And getting them professional development as well, which is I think an area where we need to improve is, again, not being stagnant, but getting our team to develop as well. One of the building techs we hired at Bremen, Elise Evans, was here for 16 years. She retired. Sean was in a building tech role, doing it all for a middle school district in Payless. So he's a great asset. He literally jumped in and was running. Michele, who's our network engineer, is a young guy, but he is smart as a whip, and he's figuring out stuff and bringing recommendations from the industry he was in before. I think we're in a really good spot. But again, there's a lot for us that we're learning. And then also we've got to look at, okay, how is our network matching up compared to other things?
Some of the network, and I'll use the term
Yeah, right.
network people very loosely, all they did was change cartridges, and I mean, they had
You mean our building techs?
zero
Right.
network.
Yeah.
Right.
knowledge.
Yeah, so our
Jim ran the
Yeah, yeah,
operation
'cause
by
they-
himself.
Yeah. So that's one of the things
we were
that.
stuck with them until they were retired.
So our switches that we have a lot of them in the garage. We're already installing them. We bought this summer. Michele is not installing them on his own. I asked that the building tech for that building actually sits with him and does it. So we're cross-training in that area where if something happens with a switch, again, Sean, who's our new one, Ryan Wicks is at Hillcrest, they both expressed an interest. Yeah, I want to know how to do this. So he's teaching them. They're doing it together to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So if one's on vacation or something like that,
They're not afraid
We're-
to leave their building, where before
Yeah.
it was, I only do my building.
I've asked Ryan has gone to other buildings and helped with some stuff that he's good at, and Sean is, he's only been here for a couple of weeks, but he's more than willing to do that. So again, we're basically playing to the strengths of the people we've hired and letting them do that. So
What is the cost of this audit?
so it's $16,000.
So you always bring it down
Yeah.
to cost.
Finance meeting.
So
All the way through without a number.
It's $16,000. Their cost, if we weren't a kind of not a loyal customer, is actually $32,000.
Yeah.
So they're giving us a half price rate for two reasons. One, they've actually done some engineer work with Jim for the last 10 years. So we're going to do Wi-Fi. They help how many routers do, or how many access points do you need. So they didn't help do any of it. They basically helped on the front end, which it benefits them because we purchase through them, and they give us good discounts. We're getting regular pricing from them, so it's not like we're getting 3% on top goes to them or anything like that. And we've worked with them for 2 different projects this year, and they've been very good. They've been really the president has come down here and met with us twice. They've been very responsive to us, and I've been impressed with them. So I also spoke with CDW. They're good, however, they're a real big company, and it's been a little bit harder to get the kind of personalized service, whereas Don, who's our kind of account manager, he's actually one of the, he doesn't tell you, but he's one of the 3 owners, because I think they try to keep the hierarchy pretty straightforward, but that's what I found out. He's called me on my cell phone, hey, how are things going? So he's been great. So CDW is a little tougher for that because they're such a big company. And there's another one, SoftBank. They do some consulting work. But I asked them kind of what their hourly rate is, and it was going to be even more than the $32,000 number. So we have a statement of work, which I can share. It's super technical, and all it says, here, I'll hand it out anyway. Yeah, okay. So pretty much it says that typically they would actually do something 90 days. They would come and stay here for 90 days. But again, that's at an industry level. For a school district, I explained kind of our needs and how budgeting works and stuff like that. So that's why they were able to kind of knock the price down a little bit. They're going to have, again, their VP is going to help us with the best practices stuff, but they're going to have a network guy is going to walk our building with a computer scanning how strong the signal is, all that stuff. Because when we designed it with not having, and we had kids on cell phones occasionally, but we didn't have all the iPads that we have now. And we're pushing this technology as much as we can, so we need to be able to support it.
We're going to continue to do that. So.
Right, yeah. So I don't want us to get into a point where next year we add another 1,400 whatever devices, and now it's okay. Well, we should have seen X coming. Now we got to figure it out week 1, whereas we can be a little bit more proactive.
And I know Mark is always, where are they from?
Naperville. Yeah, so they're close. They've been we had one incident where lightning struck Bremen, and a bunch of stuff went down. And we called them, and they were within 5 minutes. They had a senior engineer on the phone. They have a VPN access, so they can get in from outside. And they were sitting at the machine, basically right next to us, helping us with stuff. So they've been great.
It's like good work.
Thank you. Yeah, I think early on, I had this idea. Even before I started, I'm like, I think we need to do an audit, because again, this is kind of it's good to. Everyone in their own mind has it set up perfect, right? So this is set up. There's no flaws in the system. Well, everyone knows that, and as soon as someone else looks, you're like, well, what about that? Even if it's not wrong, the question's a good thing to go through.
Technology has changed so dramatically.
Insanely quick. Yeah.
When did they first come into those access points?
Yeah.
The access points, I believe, are 4 years ago. Or 2013 was when we installed them. We did 628 access points, which is actually good, because that's. If we hadn't done that, if we had done hallway ones, which some other schools do, or if we had done ones that were like, oh, we'll try to spread it out because we don't know, we would have had to fix that now, because we wouldn't have been able to handle the traffic we have now. So we did a good job 4 years ago, making sure we have one in every classroom, stuff like that.
So what kind of bandwidth do we have now? You say it's enough to accommodate?
We just upgraded, so we have a gig from this building to the internet, and then we have a gig from each of the 4 buildings here. So every building, no matter where they're at, they actually come here first. So we have to filter the content to be compliant with laws. We do our firewall to protect the buildings, and we have some other servers and stuff here. And then we have 1 gig out. I'm meeting with our rep on Thursday from ENA to talk about future planning and what do we need to do to not get caught with now we're pegging it and now we need to figure out what to do. How do we plan for that?
Yeah, they already up to gigabytes and all that kind of
stuff.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, we upgraded and people took advantage of it immediately. We were getting about 700, which is what the buildings were basically kind of maxed out at. And we went to a gig, and literally that day, everyone was using a gig. So I don't 100% know where. The problem is we could go to whatever and they'll use it but you'll download a PDF in 1/10,000th of a second instead of 1,000th of a second. So at what point do we have to be responsible with? Sure, we could give them more bandwidth, but it is coming down in price. So I think there's opportunities coming here pretty quickly where a gigabyte now isn't what it was 5 years ago. We could probably get pretty good pricing on that. So I'm just being diligent.
Now, as part of this audit, and I don't know if we even do it or plan it, is there any talk about using cloud? Or do we use
so
cloud?
That's one of the things they're going to recommend.
Okay.
We currently don't use cloud services for very much. Okay. There's the pros and cons. The pros of cloud are there's 2. This building burns down, or one of the data centers catches on fire. Like in each of the buildings, we have backups. If that catches on fire, that would be a problem. Luckily, we have all of our data separated between here and the building. So if it's in the buildings, it's here too. But that's something that the cloud helps with. The issue with the cloud is if that provider goes down, think about Google, for instance. Google went down at one point for like 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Well, we use Google for email, so it's like then we're depending on that. Now, again, if you're picking the right cloud, it doesn't go down very often. Google's not going to be down quite very often. So, but there are definitely opportunities, and that's one of the things. One area I think that they're going to help us with is data backup of our servers. So, and our team meeting, we talked about some strategies to get less data in our servers and more on things like Google Drive or Dropbox, kind of those ideas that are stored with Google. They're free to us, so it doesn't cost us any money, and people can work from home. They have all their data wherever they go on their phone. Right now all the data is on our server. They can't get to it if they're at home. So how do we make it make it easier for our staff?
Good deal. Any other questions on that for audit? Leslie?
Right now. Good right now. We need it.
Any other, Steve?
I have another.
Oh, Bill has another.
Last month we did our committee of the whole on phase 2, but we never really formalized a vote on phase 2, so I'm going to just present in general, not with a lot of detail on the budget. We have a plan for the budget, but just giving us permission to go forward in phase 2.
Okay.
Okay, so budget hasn't changed much since the last time we met. That's been pretty fluid, and we'll try to keep it coming in under with the bids and things like that.
So if we do the budget, then it'll be okay for the bids, and you can go on.
But all I'm gonna ask for is permission to go out to bid for phase 2.
If you remember when we
Phase
started
one.
this, we said we were gonna do phase 1, look at where we ended up, did it go well, or where are we relative to the budget before we considered phase 2.
Right.
Each phase, and there is a
Each
phase
phase.
3, right?
There's
Three,
three.
4, and 5.
Okay, so
Right.
we won't go to the next one until we evaluate what, so we look back and say, can we go forward? So that's basically what this is
Right.
permission to move forward,
Mm-hmm.
phase 2.
Right, and we're trying to frame out a bigger picture. There's the phase 2, there's some regular capital improvement issues that need to be done and just some work that needs to be done. That sometimes it's more cost effective to go through our architects, sometimes it's more effective to go, cost effective to go on our own. So it's real, phase 2 is real clear cut and dry, but we're trying to get a lot more done within that process, and I'm really struggling framing out how to present that to you, but that's gonna be coming up in the next couple of months. What I'd like to do is a 5-year, every problem, thing that we know that we have, let's put it on a 5-year plan and address it logically over time now that we're where we are financially. And if financially we change, then we adjust that 5-year plan. But I want to be a lot more comprehensive with the other things, like how many years have we talked about dugouts for Hillcrest softball and baseball? It's always lingering. Hillcrest has got a storage building under their football field that's just, it's in bad shape. It's way too old, you know. Some of the fine art stuff that we've already done some of it a little bit. That wasn't part of that 50 million, but really upgrade. Terry and I took a tour of the science labs. They're just, yeah, there needs to be some updating, and we're going to try to maximize our people and all of that, but I don't know.
Did you take a tour already, or is that in the 50 figure is the band room? Like I know at Hillcrest
That's in
stuff
the band rooms.
Is the band room in there in the corner?
There's a band room for Tinley Park and a band room for Bremen.
Bremen?
The other two could use love and attention. The size of the place is okay. Their size was, Bremen's is really tiny, and Tinley has outgrown theirs. Theirs is a little bigger.
Yeah.
But there's opportunities with
Tinley.
Tinley going out into the courtyard.
Okay.
They may need another classroom.
So you
So
think the
there's-
size at Hillcrest is okay?
Yeah.
'Cause I looked over there and I'm like, those kids
Yeah,
are
you
tight.
I
in
know
there.
you looked. I heard you look.
I looked. I was there. I looked. I was like, it's a little tight, you know. So
Yeah, no, it's fine now.
it's fine.
They have a choir and a band room.
Right, they have choir and band, so it's split by the office, like
Right.
that's in between.
Right, so
Bremen has one room for both.
Yeah, and Bremen has
Bremen
one
is-
room.
It's
got a
about the
room
size
about
of this room.
this
It's
size.
not that big at all.
Yeah, and they're getting
Okay.
kids into the music department.
How?
Well, 143 is
Yeah,
changed
Bremen's
there.
not-
143
I don't know. I said, how are they fitting all these kids?
How are they getting them in?
It's
They're trying.
it's
I
a
didn't mean that.
And don't play too loud,
yeah,
too, huh?
it's a classroom and a half.
Yeah.
But it's really not a very good setup.
Plus all
I've
the
been to
storage of
Tinley.
all the
Yeah.
risers against the wall and all their outfits that they all have, their robes and all that stuff. Outfits
Tinley
and stuff.
has like, I mean, they replaced they did replace the flooring and all that kind
They
of stuff. 'cause
replaced
I
the
remember-
flooring 15 years ago because I did it. And it's,
Okay.
I mean, it's been a long time.
Oh well, okay, that's the same one.
Yeah.
So with the construction bond, there was a lot of limitations as to what you could use the money on.
Right.
And we're doing that. Is anyone ever going to come from the state to like check the box and say, oh, you said you were going to use it for this and we are?
Yeah, well, we'll be fine with that because
No, I know,
that
just-
50 is going to go quickly.
Yeah. No, I was
know.
just wondering if there was any follow-up, if they were going to do any follow-up with us
They-
and say, how
it's
did you
possible.
use the money? Yeah.
It's possible, but we're,
I know we
Yeah,
are, and we don't have
yeah.
anything to worry about. I was just curious
Yeah.
if they do a follow up with that.
Because it's federal money, right?
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not gonna spend that money.
I was just curious.
They're not spending that money.
Just curious.
So we'll be,
They
we'll
do.
be
Is it for
using,
Washington?
Right.
Yeah.
we'll be using the interest off of that money. We'll be using our typical capital improvement budget, blending all of these dollars together. We'll monitor what the state, if the state continues to do what the state did, that would be awesome. We can use that money. But I'd like to just get a comprehensive 5-year plan and get rid of all the little annoying things that we've kind of tolerated over time because we were being fiscally responsible.
Right. We still want to be fiscally responsible.
Absolutely. So we had a long meeting about that today, talking about buying equipment, shared district equipment, as opposed to redundant building equipment, and getting people to communicate. You know, we're accessing our maintenance staff better than what we did. What we used to pay for labor, we're doing in-house, and it's not perfect, and there's still some glitches along the way, but those are creating the opportunities for us to make a 5-year master plan, as opposed to, you know, we can't afford it because the labor's too high.
I'm trying to. So Tinley Park's band room is up on that. It's right
Know
by
where the cafeteria is?
It's right by. It's right by near the
across-
shop, isn't it?
Right across
back.
from the cafeteria. I'm not telling you, you're gonna go inspect that too.
Necessarily go.
Just go out to the stadium and just keep walking out
You know
past.
you know where the weight room is?
Yeah.
In the
I know.
cafeteria?
Mhm. I just haven't been there.
Right next door
No, a minute.
is the band room.
Okay. Yeah, I've been in there. I just haven't.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
It's nice,
What
I mean,
part?
it's
Yeah.
it's kept up, it's organized,
It's
it's just
nice.
small.
It just needs more space in there for all the kids that
Yeah,
they're in band.
right.
you know.
Where Hillcrest is, theirs is more tired and needs to be organized, and some storage racks and some, you know, they're storing things in practice rooms.
Yeah,
and-
it's just not able to use the practice rooms and because it's storage in there.
Where are we with the audit, Steve?
It's done. I mean, the field work is done. They had to file an extension. So that was filed today, which is no big deal. I mean, it was due October 15th, and it may be a week or two late after October 15th for us to file with the state.
In the past, we've had Joe McDowell come to a meeting, kind of like in tandem with the audit, and I don't remember him being there in the last couple of years. Has he been?
He came the other year.
I think he came last year, he missed a
Last year.
before.
Oh, maybe I wasn't here.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
You weren't
'Cause I
here. You weren't here.
understand.
Yeah, we can talk to Joe and have him come out. We haven't had an auditor talk about the audit in the last couple of
No.
years. That was a while ago.
Yeah.
And people,
Yeah, I asked him. That's one of the reasons I asked. I said, do you come? I said, no, we haven't been coming
Yeah.
to present the
The
audit.
two guys down there.
Yeah, the two guys down there was.
they did probably about maybe 6-7 years ago, and it was quite the presentation. Yeah.
Intense.
Yeah.
What caused the delay, if you don't mind me asking?
They started late. They started middle of September or so, or second week in September,
There you go.
Right.
and then yeah, that's the primary
Okay.
reason they started late.
Okay. Any other, Steve? No? No discussion items, anybody? All right. Next meeting is November 13th at 7 o'clock, and we will adjourn at 7:34.